Madagascar towards Kenya. The body of Kenya's revered opposition leader, Raila Odinga, has now arrived in Nairobi from India, where he passed away on Wednesday, reportedly from a suspected heart attack. A large crowd gathered at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport to honor Odinga, who, despite running unsuccessfully for the presidency 5 times, was a powerful figure in Kenyan politics for decades. In response to his passing, President William Ruto has declared 7 days of national mourning. Odinga's body will be taken to the parliament and public grieving spaces have been set up across Nairobi. A state funeral will be held on Friday, followed by a burial service in his birthplace in Western Kenya on Sunday. Meanwhile, Kenyans gathered in streets of Nairobi to mourn the passing of Raila Odinga. People have gathered in Nairobi to mourn the death of former Kenyan Prime Minister Raila Odinga. The 80-year-old passed away while receiving medical treatment at a hospital in India. Mourners carried twigs as they marched, reflecting the emotional impact of his death. Listen in.
Raila has been a very key factor. We want to say that we were very sad about his demise, and what we can say for now, we are so much heartbroken about his death. And what I want to say is to tell my fellow Kenyans, we remain calm.
Raila Odinga, I remember him as a man who has no any fear. Number 2, he's a man who has brought in multipartyism through democracy and the new constitution 2010.
We have lost a very great leader. We have lost a very great leader of democracy, a person who has nurtured many politically, a person who has brought many to life politically, a person who has made Kenya to develop, to prosper politically in terms of democracy.
Joining us on the broadcast is Professor Duncan Ojwang, Professor of Constitutional Law in Kenya. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Kenya is at the moment mourning the loss of one of its most stirring leaders, the former Prime Minister. Although he ran 5 times for the presidency, he did not ascend to that position, but he's left a lasting impact. I wanted to understand from you, what is his legacy in the electoral sphere and how might it influence the upcoming elections?
Thank you very much, and thank you for India for taking care and trying to do the best India could in terms of medicine to save former Prime Minister Raila. I think the theme that runs on Raila Odinga is that he always contested. He might disagree with the institutions like of election, the court, when he petitioned court, the police, but he always fell back to protect them as the safeguard for democracy and rule of law. In other words, he believed in constitutional takeover of power, and severally he has rejected attempts to do extra constitutional means as a way of taking over power, as urged by his supporters. And sometimes the country is split down the middle, and it could have been very easy for him to push and like other African countries, to take power unconstitutionally because of public agitation, including even picketing and demonstrations. But he refused that. He saw that as a path that will set Kenya into the downward spiral of illegal coups. And through that, you can see that Kenya has remained as an oasis of peace in the region. Yes, with all its challenges, yes, with all the contested election, but still after election, Kenya is able to bounce back with camaraderie and with the collegiality and with patriotism, and not slide to chaos, unlike other African countries that we have seen.
And I also
And therefore, that is, he has secured democracy by being the foremost competitor. And even when he had a feeling, and his supporters had a feeling that the election were not fair, he had rejected the path of extra-constitutional mean of gaining power and remained on the narrow and democratic way. Finally, you know, he has a scar to show for it. He was detained for 9 years, tortured for 9 years. He has bruises to show, and that is fighting for the Kenya multi-party when we had a single party, so that we can have multi-party and election and plural election and alternative voice. So he was tortured, he has suffered, he grew old, but he still had that as his north and fairly pushed Kenya towards better democracy. But finally, always so forgiving, willing to look back and take whoever's won, whether he does not believe they won fairly, with both hands and say, let's move this country forward. And through that, it's a study that other African countries now are looking at Kenya, that how do you almost get to the chaos or to civil war, but you bounce back. Raila Odinga has been the magic of accepting whoever becomes the leader and working with them for the sake of the country.
Indeed, I also wanted to understand how might Raila Odinga's death now affect the future of Kenya's opposition politics and the delicate balance of power as well.
Yeah, and so you are right that people feel sense of loss. His supporters feel sense of loss. But I think as an old wise man and a leader of his people, it became very clear in the last few months that he wanted to leave them in the government and not in the opposition. He wanted them to work for united Kenya and not for disenfranchised Kenya. And because of that, he was able to, you know, the famous phenomenology of shaking hands. He was able to shake hands with people that were rivals, including the current president. He was able to use familiar words, my brother, my younger brother, calling him my younger brother, and the president calling him my older brother. So that camaraderie is why even his mourning is very peaceful. And even in future, I think that the task is set and the ball is in the current president court and the leaders, all of them really, that unite Kenyans. We are one people. We want fair development. We want fair opportunities. We want freedom. We want to be vocal but not be murdered or tortured. And so he set an agenda that his party agreed to work with the ruling party on 10 points agenda, and that was to unite Kenya. And so I see his eldest brother, who is also a politician. He has stepped on that shoe temporarily, and so I see them still walking that line of working with the government, and I don't see why they will depart from that even in 2027. And if that is the case, as most of them have indicated, then you can see why 2027 might be the most uniting and the most decisive election for the government, because it will have in one side the ruling coalition, and on the other side the Raila supporter, which have been the bulwark of opposition, coming together and forming a team, a united team before the general election. That to me seems like the path Kenya is probably going to take, and that become then unbeatable if you see, because those who remain behind now in the name of opposition are a little bit greyhound and not to the stature of Raila and to the command that he does. And so the state is at the center. And even if you look at his burial committee, and even if you look at the team that came to pick him in India, it's a mix of the people of working across aisle because his agenda was uniting. And I see that going up to the election, with the president now running for second term under the same platform in Ban.
All right, with that, I would like to thank you, sir, for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. With that, viewers, we're shifting our focus away from